Alright guys, with the new shield box coming out, I thought I would talk a bit about where I'm at with my shield roster, since a lot of you guys are just like knocking down my DMs trying to find out where I'm at with this. So, let's just go down the roster. We're going to talk about the different choices that I've made, why things are here, and we're going to go through it. So let's start with characters. Here's the stuff that I have that's not changing. Nick Fury Jr., Nick Fury Jr. still defines shield. The core box doesn't change that at all. Eye in the Sky is still a big deal. He's still one of the best scenario players, one of the highest damage output pieces in the faction. His leadership is still decent. We'll talk about a little bit about when you play each leadership a little bit later, but you still play this guy. Commandos are still the best 3 threat in shield. It's pretty undisputed now that Bucky's been nerfed, so Commandos are staying. Agent Venom is sticking around. He still helps solve our tough matchups. He's great on Scoundrels to prevent cover. He absolutely dunks Web Warriors. Web Warriors is one of our hardest matchups now. Definitely still playing Agent Venom. Crimson Dynamo is still king of the E's, so we're still playing Crimson Dynamo because we're playing every E scenario. If they come out with another E-shaped scenario, Shield will play that scenario. So as a result, we have Crimson Dynamo here. He's just really, really good, and just way more people play E-shaped maps than they should in the meta. So I'm keeping him around. Hawkeye has worked his way back into the list. He had been gone for a little bit. He had been like in and out, bouncing around. He's great. He's one of the best users of the new Iron Man leadership. Makes him hit harder, tankier. He's pretty darn good with Stark Armory, so I've got him back in the roster. I also just love Hawkeye. Hawkeye did really good stuff for me at LVO. I love him here. Still playing Bullseye. Still off Widow. Widow 1, that is. I just think Bullseye's guaranteed damage is just exactly what Shield wants. I just love the guy. I think he's just fantastic. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the new stuff that was going on. So Bucky got nerfed. Bucky is still in my roster. I still think Bucky is like... He is no longer the absolutely like irresponsibly broken piece that he was, but he is still among the best wielders of hammers in the entire game. Definitely the best hammer wielder in the faction. Like there's some argument that like the grunts use it better, but they're shorter range, they're more fragile, lots of stuff. They probably shouldn't pick up your home one. But Bucky on hammers or with on like a pretty clear map into like pretty low def stats is like he just uses Stark Armory just so well that he's still making my roster. He makes my team significantly less than he used to, but still like pretty often. Like the character is still good. Double Got Your Back can still blow people out. And people are going to be less used to it now that Bucky's not literally everywhere. The big thing out of the core box is Invincible Iron Man. Playing Invincible Iron Man, I think he is very, very, very good. Combining that with Stark Armory, I just think Invincible Iron Man is just so good. The ability to push rerolls up over the top, like I've talked about in other videos, make him incredible. Just like make us hit just so hard. He's in for sure. He's the best part of the core set. If you're a shield player, and you're like, oh, but I only play shield, spend the $150, man. Invincible Iron Man's worth it, 100%. Next up, I have I'm playing Original Tony. Original Tony's in here right now, kind of because I don't feel strongly about my 10th spot, and there are specific places I like Original Tony. So Malekith's been nerfed really hard, but if he's not actually dead, and every time they've nerfed Malekith, he's not actually been dead. So if he's not dead, my 15 is rough. Like I have to kind of pick between Double Got Your Back, which is really good in Malekith because he has to kill stuff to do his thing. It means he can't just dive the one Got Your Back model. There's like lots of little things here. I don't like the kind of layout of 15 thread into Malekith, because if you play, you got to play Nick Fury. You have to play an Iron Man because you still want Helios. Part of what makes us so good in that matchup is Helios. And we can talk about whether Helios is still warranted here, but this is part of why it's still on my list. But let's say we play 4th Red Iron Man, so we're at 8 points. Commandos we need for the other gotcha back, we're at 11 points. And now we have 4 points left and can't fit Bucky. If forced to play this, you probably play, based on shape, either Crimson Dynamo or a Splash 4 or Agent Venom. Agent Venom's like okay here, but I don't love it. Like being Def 2 into 7 die skull exploding crits dude means you're just like, you're spoiling to just die. So if you put old Tony back in here, we can still play our standard 15 of, you know, Tony, Fury, Commandos, Bucky, 2 threat, which in this case is Bullseye. That still kills Malekith super well, kills Red Skull super well, kills whatever other 5 threat he's going to bring super, super well. And still preserves all the Iron Man cards, so that's why he's in here. All right. Did I skip anybody before we go to my spicy splash thing? Nope. Okay, so the spicy splash here is we're playing Hela. Hela is a really interesting piece. She's been buffed here. She does some really unique things for S.H.I.E.L.D., and I like her a lot with normal Iron Man. So before we really get into playing Hela, let's talk a little bit about when you play each leadership. And that'll explain my thoughts on why I play Hela and when I play Hela. So the best part of Nick Fury's leadership is that it can give you like 3 victory points and let you play a very conservative, very protective game while not losing because you get free victory points. And then occasionally the aggressive is really good for staying on points against people that are using guns or stuff to push you off. It meant that Eyes on the Prize is a thing you didn't really want to do, because going up on extracts and going up on points early meant you get to use the best part of the leadership, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has so many good tactics cards that was a legitimate price you were paying to do that. And there wasn't really a great wielder of Eyes on the Prize that S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted. Like, there weren't a lot of tons of people with guns, and like Beta Ray's fine. Like, Beta Ray's like never bad anywhere, but he didn't really fit into the S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of protective, shoot you from range, hyper efficient guns kind of plan. But Hela does. So new Hela is really useful if you want to go up early. And when you can go up early, like let's say we're playing on Spider Infected or on Hammers, I can get away with playing the Iron Man leadership and an Eyes on the Prize play on things like Hammers or, you know, the F maps where I have priority. I can take the middle, be up. They're forced into the guns, which means they have to just kind of like run at me to come get these extracts. And I'm playing Tony's leadership so I can hit even harder. And then on top of that, Hela brings a couple unique things for us. So first of all, we synergize with the souls mechanic. We play lots of little bodies, and the grunts give souls. So when they kill the grunts, we can like gotcha back them, and Hela gets a soul, and you know, like we're really creating cool synergies here. And that's part of what like makes her fun. What makes her good is she can use these souls to make attacks that can go up over the top. And with the reworks to her power structure, with Claim Soul not costing 2, costing 1, means that she can really just afford to pay for the Tony leadership all the time. She makes a ton of power. If they come within 3 of her, she's hitting them super hard with the souls she's gathered. If she's not, or if they're not coming to within 3, she has a really strong 4-shot gun. If she just takes 2 6s that are mystic shaped or mystic typed, that's really strong. Also, there's a bit of a meta call here. A lot of the stuff that got buffed and that is really popular in the meta right now has weak mystic defenses. We're talking about like Daredevil, a bunch of the new spiders, right? Like, so like ASM's not that weak to mystic. He's weakest to mystic. But the other new Spider-Man in the core is, Wolverine is. There's just like lots of stuff running around. I know that Wakanda's coming back in a big way. and the original Black Panther is very weak to Mystic. So having a Mystic gun, which is a thing that most people don't expect out of Shield, and one that hits this hard, with all the rerolls that Tony can back it up with, I'm finding it really strong and really good. Plus, her defensive mechanic on the back does lots of cool things, like being able to, I don't know, just the idea of Hela having 3 souls on her, and you have to kill her through the 3 souls, and then she's still protected by all the shield nonsense of Eye in the Sky and Sacrifice and Got Your Backs and all this other stuff. Is really cool. There is some anti-synergy, like if you use the Goddess of Death ability, I think it's Goddess of Death, right? When you use the Queen of Hell ability on her backside to prevent her from dying, you can when you use the Queen of Hell ability on her backside, this stops her from being KO'd, so the Got Your Backs don't trigger. It prevents them from triggering. So there's a little bit of anti-synergy there, but also, that would be ridiculous. And thank God it doesn't do that. She just does a lot of cool things. If you can spend the souls on her builder, which is now range 3, she can just end up Yahtzeeing into a ton of power. And also randomly, there's the fun bleed synergy. So if you guys if you only know the changes to Hela and you're not familiar with who she was before, the Spender's gimmick is if they're bleeding, so she can hand out bleed with both the wild trigger on her builder, and anytime you use souls, it also gives the bleed ability, or it also puts the bleed condition on whatever she hit. Her gimmick there is that Reign of Hell, her spender, which is now only cost 3, it doesn't ignore it. You don't count wilds, so it's like Super Pierce. It doesn't turn them to blanks, so if you're somebody who counts blanks, and most people don't count blanks against, or if you're somebody that counts blanks, it doesn't, it goes through that. Because it doesn't pierce them and flip them to blanks. It just doesn't count wilds. It just makes your defense dice, really, really bad. You only block on 2 faces for normal people. And if she spends all 3 souls, this can be a 10-die physical attack. And then, Iron Man can make her reroll 3 of them. And then she can reroll 1. It's just it can be a really big up over the top attack on the harder targets. If you're looking for a good way to kill Bill, this is a great way to kill Bill. I just like Hela a lot. There's just lots of cute little things you can do with her, and she's just a really good value 4 threat. I've played her a couple times. Be careful playing her into Hellfire Club or into Brotherhood, as she will die very, very easily on her backside because of Mystique or Emma preventing her from triggering her Queen of Hell ability. But outside of there, she's really resilient. She hits really hard. She brings a Mystic attack, which is a thing that's really up in the meta right now. Also, there's a bunch of more there's a bunch of martial artist characters running around, and she's really good at killing them because all of her attacks are range 3, or she can go Mystic. And I'm having such a good time with Hela. I'm also having a blast painting her. All right, but that's the spicy pick, and then we're playing Eyes on the Prize, which she's a really good user of. So that's the characters. Let's talk about tactics cards real quick. Most of these are the staples. So I'm running Eye in the Sky, Battlefield Medicine, Brace for Impact, Marked for Death, Helios Laser Bombardment, Sit Rep, Sacrifice, Shield Mobile, Stark Armory, Eyes on the Prize. I've notably cut Mission Objective here. It never really made it into my roster. It was mostly I'm scared somebody's trying to assemble the Legacy Virus, with the Grunts kind of able to protect the Legacy Virus, and nobody's really trying to assemble it, as far as I can tell. Most of the teams that are playing it to be slow. So, that's fine. And I haven't needed it. It was cute if they dropped Rhino, but I never seemed to have it, and they had Rhino. So, I pulled that out for Eyes on the Prize, and I've been really happy with it. So a lot of these are just the staples of the list. Marked for Death is super important, as Webs is one of our worst matchups, plus Stealth is super obnoxious for all of our guns, so that's really useful there. We already talked about Eyes on the Prize and Stark Armory a bit, but eyes on the prize for the Hela play. Really enables the Tony leadership if you can get a center line extract and then just play Tony leadership and either be even or up on turn at the end of turn 1, allowing you to essentially like have no bad effect for playing the Tony leadership, not having to overextend for it. Stark Armory is busted. It's just like the most bananas card I've ever seen in my life. This is going to be meta defining. Any like wide attrition is a real thing now. Any list that can bring Tony can play wide attrition. Shield loves to play this card on turn 2. If you can, through some chicanery or pressure, get an attack with Iron Man on turn 1, either by, the most common way is somebody puts somebody on the midline and you activate Iron Man last, walk up, shoot them. Even if you miss the shot, you're getting a power. It means you have 3 power on turn 2. Play Stark Armory, open up the turn, just laying into them. Really, really good. You get to play it in the power phase, which for most lists is bad, but it means that for us, who like Shield is a team that loves not to have priority because we can use our tricks to make their first activation bad, and it going in the power phase means got your backs, have it round 1 or turn 1, which is super good. This card's incredible. It's so powerful. But here's the thing. Stark Armory and new Iron Man put new power requirements on Shield that weren't there. And playing Helios every game is not a thing in Shield anymore. You're going to want to play a lot of Invincible Iron Man. It is very tough to play Invincible Iron Man and Helios. It's not impossible. I've had meaningful Helioses, but it is very difficult. Helios is kind of an on-the-bubble card for me. It's 100% in because I don't believe that the cat is dead, and I want my cat plan to stay intact. And hopefully the nerfs to Bucky are, less than the nerfs to Malekith. Yeah. And my classic plan will still work just as well. But if you have cut original Iron Man, I think Helios is probably an on-the-bubble card for you. I need more games to see what's going on, and I don't have a card that is like begging to be in my roster. Like, this would probably just be fallback, but also Shield is totally fine not playing fallback. I think I would really only want it in the mirror or into Shadowlands or other rapid-fire heavy things. Seems fine. The Crises. I think that's it for tactics cards. I don't think got anything weird going on. Still playing Brace, still playing Sack. Just the best defensive stuff that I can get for my hit point pools and all that fun stuff. But if you, I think there are some other viable Shield builds where you can, go, if you're going to bring in a big boy of, Thanos, now that he doesn't cost restricted cards, is way less expensive to Shield. I still don't love Thanos and Shield, but I do think it's better than it's ever been, especially because you get to hang on to Sacrifice. And if that's your everyday plan, Patch-Up's not bad here instead of Brace, but Sacrifice is, the restricted card we need. My Crises. I am on Infinity Formula, Demons, Gamma. These have been the 3 Crises, for Shield, since forever. The weakest of them for us is Infinity because Shield wants to fight down the middle. We have Dynamo, who's the best E character, and we are the best E faction. We hate when Infinity Formula gets flipped, but also this is probably when playing Helios is the most beneficial, but also the worst time to play New Iron Man, because you want everybody in that bubble for both Stark Armory and the rerolls. But extra power on a character that's super power starved. So, I'm still experimenting with this, but I think it's the best Crisis in the slot. And I'm still experimenting with, how playable New Iron Man is on this Crisis. But I think he is. We still got Research Station. Research Station is, every time we lose Secures and we get Research Station, we're having the best time. Montesi Formula and Hammers are still incredible for us. Montesi Formula is still not as great as it once was. But, when the Grunts get the book, that feels incredible. And then obviously, we're the best hammers team in the game. I kind of think these are the extracts you end up running no matter what, because if you're going, like, if you find that your meta has a lot of, like, people playing, like the extract game and stealing stuff from you all the time, slotting torch and maybe torch and maybe pyro in here, and what's it called, pyrotechnics, to play a more like drop your extracts and keep it safe. Like, I don't think that's insane here. And like, there's some pretty clear places you can cut from if that's a thing you find yourself needing to do. And these extracts are set up perfect for that, because Torch can drop all of them, or you can be on Researcher and then just be happy. All right, let's talk about our matchups. There's kind of 5 matchups I want to talk about here. They essentially go to, there's 2 high-tier bad matchups, 1 low-tier bad matchup, and then 2 matchups I think are even that are high-tier. And I think we're kind of advantaged into everybody else. So our high-tier bad matchups, or disadvantaged matchups, are Guardians and Webs. Webs are in a great spot right now. I actually think for them, the changes to the extract stealing characters were probably a net buff for them. Their other extract stealers, like, they didn't rely on Voodoo that much because they have 3 in-faction extract players. So they can still play all of those. I think Black Cat got better. She's just like way, way tankier now. So she's much better at the secure game and standing on secures. And being tankier means she's around longer, which means she gets to make her attack, or she can make her attacks more without fear, and so she's better at building power. I think the character is just like way, way better for them. The thing that she did was broken is obviously worse, but I think Webs are in a great spot. I think Webs are in such a good place, and they were already a rough matchup for us. The like stealth everywhere, the constant rerolls, just like the difficulty to get a hold of them, and their ability to like solidly strip extracts was just like really good, and they can run away with the game really easily. Guardians are kind of in a weird place for us. In theory, okay, so like on paper, I think that Shield is better than Guardians. But now that the restricted list has changed, Guardians doesn't have to pick the build they have. So they can kind of have all the Guardians builds all at once. And I think of the 3 Guardians builds as a Cosmic Ghost Rider focused build, a Thanos focused build, and an Agent Venom dudes focused build, where like you're trying to get foreign assignment, or getting a really good foreign assignment turn. I think with the restricted cards not being a problem, like all 3 of those are like really fittable in your list. And the Thanos one is very good into Shield. Like, if Guardians can present Thanos and Groot as the only 2 things you can kill, we have a really hard time punching through that. Now, I think that Stark Armory is going to help with that a lot. The need to rush to Helios the front side of Thanos off, doesn't exist as much anymore now that he can only portal once. I think he's going to have a harder time really killing more than, like 1 guy a turn against us with all our defensive tech. So I think Guardians are just like the best thing in the game, and I think this is probably slightly tipped their way, but again, it just matters so much about how each of you roll and like how the Guardians game goes. I still feel pretty confident into the Guardians matchup against everyone but like the best 2 or 3 Guardians players in the world. I think it is probably literally disadvantaged, but Guardians are the best thing in the game, and even it being close, like, they're just so good. The low tier bad matchup for us is Asgard. Asgard got a bunch of new toys. They're better than they've ever been, and it's really easy for us to end up in a spot where all of our attacks are bouncing off all their Def 4, and the leadership lets them strip Incinerate, which we rely on a lot to, make that Def 4 not as big of a problem. I still think they're like middle tier to low, like middle to low tier of a faction, at least until their next wave drops. But like they just got the Hela buffs. Space just came off the restricted list. Loki's better than he's ever been because Mystique's not as much in the meta, because when Mystique was everywhere, Loki just died. So I think there's lots of interesting stuff you can do with that faction, especially because Thor got another hit point, and I think the faction is just like way better than it was, and everything that made it a rough matchup is still around. Like, we also hate Odin's Blessing. Trying to get that out of their hand is a big deal when we rely on our spikes. So the first big like swing spike isn't going to happen. And then I think of the high tier stuff, our two even matchups are Avengers and X-Men. The Voodoo change to Avengers is a big deal. Like, a lot of Sam players were just playing, like, Sam is a very, very good, very strong leader with an absurd leadership, and then Voodoo was broken. And like, those two things, I think a lot of Avengers players were just riding and were just crushing people with, because if you can just play those two pieces really, really well, and then splash in like Bill or some other broken piece, or, you know, just play Hulk really well, you're well on your way to just like being at top table. And Avengers are worse, or that list is worse, but I think New Steve's leadership is absurd. I think it's going to be so good. The Steve murder lists are giving Avengers a thing they haven't had really since, you know, like, All You've Got banned. So they aren't doing the ridiculous like 3 turns in a row thing that they were doing, but I think that those murder lists are up there, especially when you can use the shield leadership to like, or not the shield leadership, the Avengers leadership to like buy more wilds to either create more attacks or to have like a several dice swing, like on, you know, freaking, you know, Logan can pick up 1 wild and it can be like net 3 hits. You know, like, you lose a block, I pick up 2 hits, like, and Logan's or Wolverine's in faction, so I just think that's really, really scary. And then you can also, I've been experimenting with a like kind of annoy you, steal your extracts and get out build, where like you're using Sam to push their characters away, and you're putting a lot of shock out with New Widow and Spider-Woman, and you're always hitting those wild triggers that are just making it really hard for them to kill you. So I think Avengers is always going to be strong. Sam didn't take a huge hit. Like, having Voodoo not be just like Brochosaurus Rex helps, like, hurts them a ton, but I still think Avengers are like the second or third best thing in the game. And I think our matchup with them is like better player wins. So watch out for them. X-Men, I was really high on coming out of the initial balance pass. And now that we've had some time with them, the Storm leadership changing is a huge deal for them. Like, they don't have reduced damage by 1 on every character forever now. And that has changed things a ton. The Storm, like, aggressive extract play is worse, but a lot of it's still intact, so it's still very dangerous in that aspect. And the more I've seen it played, the more I think that it is hard to fit the new Cyclops shell into the Storm shell. So, like, the X-Men lists are just so up in the air, and then once they're figured out, they're just gonna vary a lot. Like, I think there's like 3 or 4 solid builds right now. So it's hard to tell what's going on, but I still think they're very strong. Our bad matchup against them is gone. The auto lose matchup that was the X-Men, like, we had a sub 40% win rate against X-Men. That's over. Like, the cover being removed means they died to just everybody else. Just like they died just like everybody else we play against. And I think Webs is going to be a way harder matchup now because the stealth spam is a big problem. But I still think X-Men are among the best things in the game. Or if I had to call my shot now, I would say X-Men are among the best things in the game. They're just very unsolved, and they're kind of all over the place. But they just have so many good characters that it's hard for me to believe that the X-Men players aren't going to figure it out eventually. But that's kind of my Shield roster. You guys can check out the links in the description if you want to see the full thing. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I do videos, like all kinds of videos. If you liked this, give it a like so that YouTube shows it to other people. And don't forget, guys, that fun is a finite resource.